so let us now move. Yesterday we talked about kfiyah in general. By get, by karban. Now we noted that in those two categories, those two mitzvot, we have the category of kofanot acha yomer rotzani. But there is a few passages in the Torah Kohanim that indicate that Korbanot Tzibbur in general or Korbanot Omer might be different. And that's what I want to look at. So what is the Torah Kohanim?
Sefer.
Great. Which Sefer?
It's a commentary on the Torah for specific with
Is it related to the Shah?
It is the Midrash Halacha. It is from what period of Jewish history?
The
Tanoim, thank you. The same as the Mishnah. This is very important stuff. No, it's before the Gemara. It's from the Mishnah. Time of the Mishnah. The Gemara quotes it, right? It's Midrash Halacha. So just reminder that Midrash is divided into two categories: Midrash Agadah and Midrash Halacha. Midrash Agadah is what you normally think of when you think Midrash. Midrash Rabbah, Tanchuma, things like that, from various periods. Those are the stories and the miracles and da. Midrash Halacha is halachic exegesis of the Torah. So like every time you have a drasha in the Gemara, that is a moment of Midrash Halacha, but the books, the Midrash Halacha, are just that according to the whole book. So, we have, on Shmot, we have Mechilta de Rishon Bar Yochai, Mechilta de Rabbi Yishmael. On Vayikra, we have Torat Kohanim, or the Sifra, the Torat Kohanim, which is what we're looking at now. But Midbar and Dvarim, you have the Sifrei. Okay, those are Midrash Halacha from the...
Isn't there like a concept, I think it was in Kedushin, where it said that not everyone accepts certain drashas, but from like one of them we always accept it, a different Dvarim or something?
Oh no, that was Smuchen. Yeah, they're machloket about drasha.
No, but it said like certain rabbis won't accept certain drasha or
I think
something else, except for when it comes from this, maybe. I thought it says...
It's a machloket within drasha.
No.
Right, within drasha, like how do you do a drasha? Anyways, the Midrash Halacha are collections of Tanaitic, Halachic, Midrash. So Torat Kohanim is the Midrash Halacha on Vayikra. And there are several Rishonim who wrote on the Midrash Halacha. The most famous of them is probably the Ravid, as in the Ravid that you know from the Rambam, that same person. His name was Avram ben David.
That works. Yeah.
There are several Ravids. Not all of them are Avram ben David. Some of them are Avram Av Beit Din.
They really should get last names.
So they do. There's the sort of. There's the Avram Balasaga. There's the Ravid Balasaga. There's the Ravid Bala Eshkol. There's the Ravid the historian, Avram ibn Daud, which is just another way of saying Avram ben David. He actually is Avram ben David, but he went by but he was Avram ibn Daud. Now this Ravid is from what? From where? Provence. Seems to be the answer. Oh, it just gets Provence. The other major Rishon on the Torah Kohanim, who we're going to look at now, is the Rosh Mishans. Who is the Rosh Mishans? Shimshon of Sens. He is... Where is he from?
Sens.
Yes, which is where? France, thank you. He is a Baalei Tosfot. He is one of the most important of the Baalei Tosfot. He's also the same person who wrote on Mishnah. On Mishnah, we have very few Rishonim on Mishnah. We have the Rambam and we have the Rash. That's the same Rosh Mishans. When he's quoted in Tosfot, though, he's not called the Rosh Mishans. He's called usually...
There's a thing on...
all of Mishnah.
No, that's a
and then when he's quoted in Tosfot, he's usually called the Rashba. The Rashba in Tosfot is not the Sephardi Rashba, Rishon ben Aderet. It is the Rosh Mishans, Shimshon ben Avram.
It's very confusing.
Yes, it is. It's okay. Eventually, you'll get the hang of all 500 million Rishonim or something. And then the other major early commentary we have on it is Rabbeinu Hillel, who is from
Provence.
Nope.
Spain.
Nope. Nope.
Germany.
Poland.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Wait, Sephardi or countries or Russian?
Europe.
Great, thank you.
Austria.
Hillel ben Eliakim, who is from... He's from Greece.
Was from
Greece.
There were Jews in Greece.
Yes, he's not really well known besides for his commentary on. Yes, Hillel ben Eliakim. I'll get you his biography. Hillel ben Eliakim mechachmei rishonim yadua b'pirushos medrashei halacha. He lived in the 11th century, so parallel to Baalei Tosfot, but he is from. It's written as Silvidi, which I'm not really sure. It's either Silvery or Salonika, or no one's really quite sure, but he's from Greece. Okay? Cool. Those are the three main Rishonim commentaries we have on the Torah Kohanim. So, look at number 9. This is from the Torah Kohanim. V'heinif et ha'omer lifnei Hashem. You shall wave the Omer before God. Shloshet Shemot Yeshlo. There's 3 names. Omer, Shibalim, Omer Tnufa, Omer Shmo. Okay, fine. Lirtzomchem, to their, in accordance with their will, in Kofin, Ein Atzibor al Kolcho. That's probably a Girsa mistake. Ein Kofin Edat Tzibur al Karcho, or something like that. And in fact, that is the Girsa that the Rosh Mishans has, because Ein Kofin Edat Tzibur doesn't make any sense. The Girsa in the Rosh is Edat Tzibur. You cannot coerce the community. So now, logically, if you just had this Rasha and you stopped, what would you tell me?
You can't.
What does it mean when it says you cannot be kofeh the tzibur al karcho? You cannot coerce them. So what questions do we need to ask?
Why can't you coerce?
Define.
1, why can't you coerce them? 2, define coerce. Thank you. And the third is whatever halacha being introduced here, is this a local halacha to Omer? Or is it true of all Korbanot Tzibbur? We don't know. So let's start with the second question. What does coerce mean here? What possibilities do I have?
Physical abuse.
Meaning?
Mental abuse.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it, but that's not what I mean. I mean halachically. What do I mean? Meaning?
Excommunication.
No, come on, that's not what I mean. Meaning, one possibility. Remember yesterday we saw by a regular korban, are you allowed to coerce? Yes. Does it need to be in accordance with their will?
Yes.
Yes. Yakrivoto means you can coerce. Lirtzono means with their will. What's the Gemara solution? And the Sifra solution? Sifra solution?
You
Korbanot
until he says that.
Korbanot Tzibbur. So when we say you can't coerce here, what does that mean? Does that mean you can't coerce
At all?
at all, or it just means you can't coerce without waiting for the I want to? Right? Which one does it mean? Meaning, is this identical to Korban Yachid or not? So the Ravid, if you skip for a moment to 11, the Ravid just says, don't get too excited. This Sifra means nothing different than the previous Sifra. Meaning, you can coerce the Tzibur until they say Rotzani or Rotzanachnu. It's exactly identical to a regular korban. That's all. Let's look at the Ravid in 11.
Who are we supposed to be coerced?
Oh, good. Hold that thought. But the Ravid says fundamentally, Lirtzonchem. Look at 11. Lirtzonchem ve'en kofin at tzibur al korcham ad sheyomer rotzani. Well, actually, it's not clear what he says. He may be saying that. Right? It sounds like in the Ravid, though it's not totally clear, though many of the Achronim suggested that what the Ravid is saying is that it's the same. That you can be kofeh them. It's just you need to wait until Rotzani. Now, I'm not actually sure that's what it means, because it's a little bit ambiguous. Rotzonchem ve'ein kofen atzibor al korcham ad sheyomer rotzani. So that it could go either way, right? You could either say it means you cannot coerce them, even until they say Rotzani, or you can't coerce them, meaning, or it depends where you put the
Comma.
Yeah, exactly. Now, many of the Achronim assume that what the Ravid is saying is, and I'm not sure he's saying this, now that I actually look at it for the 10th time, I'm not sure he's saying this, right? That Tzibur is not different. He might actually saying they're different. I'm not sure. I'll be honest. Right? Like if you look in
It's convincing.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, right? The truth is, the more I read it, the more I think he might agree with the Rosh Mishan. The Rosh says it explicitly. So if you look at, go back to 9, the Rosh Mishan says explicitly, so the Rosh is in the commentary on the right, on the left-hand side, that's the Rosh. Lirtzonchem, ein kofin et tzibor bal korcham, ein ba'in aleim beitin l'kayem mitzvot ela b'rashut u'v'ratzon. The court does not come against them to fulfill the mitzvah, meaning doesn't force them unless it has permission with will. Ki genayu lekarban tzibor lihyot korban be'achreach afilu amru rotzimanu. Because it's just degrading for a communal korban to be brought under coercion, even if they say rotzani. Right? Even if they say we want. Meaning, the Rash is totally explicit. The Ravid, less so, but this might be what he means. But he's completely
One, can you say that also just the singular person?
What? Good. So, now the thing is that the Ravid elsewhere does seem to say, and this is what they note here in the footnote in the Mesifta, that elsewhere the Ravid makes it a little bit clearer that he thinks you can't coerce, you just have to wait until Rotzani. So it is possible that's what the Ravid means. So let's assume that's a possibility.
That was for the single person.
What? That was even the Tzibur, that's the Ravid. Right? I mean, the Ravid. Right? Let's note that at least in one place in the Torah Kohanim, and this is how they understand it here, and some of the Achronim say this as well, that the Ravid thinks that the Tzibur is the same as everybody else, who can coerce as long as they say we want. But the Rash is explicit that you can't do that. Or the Rash is very explicit. You are not allowed to coerce the Tzibur. Why not? Right? So why not? Why would you say that a tzibur is different? Now the Ravid has a technical problem. If you think the Ravid says you can coerce, we have a technical problem, which is how exactly do you coerce?
Yeah.
Who are you coercing? Fine, technical problems, we'll figure it out.
It's one individual coercing a whole thing, or
whatever. Or there's 20,000 people who don't want it, and 100,000 people who do. So they coerce the 20,000 to say we want. I don't know.
I guess maybe it depends how you view a tzibur. If you view a tzibur as one whole person versus separate people.
Good. So I suggested this when I was talking with one of my old converses about this, that part of this might depend on how do you view the tzibur. And in general, and if you want, we can do a separate share on this, but there's a machlokes. Is a tzibur viewed halachically as a conglomerate of its parts, or is what we call in American law, a corporate entity?
Yeah.
Meaning,
Citizens
tzibur is
citizens.
right. It's like Apple, right? No people make up Apple. There are directors and stuff like that, but Apple is a theoretical thing called Apple.
This is the Citizens United court case.
It's every corporation case, basically.
Not the original.
Now, if you think that a tzibur is made up of a bunch of individuals, that's how halachically it's viewed, that it's just a lot of people, a lot of individuals, so then it might be hard, but I would understand why you would say fundamentally a korban tzibur is exactly like a korban yachid. It's just a lot harder to coerce them. Right? You just got to coerce a lot of people.
Right.
But if you think that they're a corporate entity, right, that a tzibur is something different, so then you might say, well, maybe you can't coerce them. And this for several reasons. So one possibility, which the Rosh doesn't say, which is,
You don't have the authority to.
or it's just impossible, meaning you can't coerce a theoretical entity.
Yes.
Right? What is that? Like, how are you going to do that?
I mean, you only can't till you could. So I don't know.
But the Rash doesn't actually say this. What is the Rash's argument? The Rash says, why can't you coerce? It's degrading. Now, what does that mean? Now, according to this svara, according to Rash, does it really matter formally, whether it's Tzibur is a different entity?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think the Rash is based on corporate entity, not corporate entity. Right? He seems to make a different type of an argument. Right? You could have said you can't coerce the Tzibur because there's no such thing. The Tzibur doesn't exist. It's a corporate entity. Who are you going to coerce? It isn't made up of individuals. So what might the Rash be saying?
If you have to coerce the whole Tzibur, then like you got other problems.
Right, I mean that seems to be what he's saying. In simple pshat, it's just like that. It's pasnished. Right, meaning it's one thing to say that an individual, I have to coerce Hashem Rotzani, but a tzibur, it's just wrong. Like there are thousands and thousands of people who are saying, no, we don't want to bring a korban. Now, I think you could push it a little bit farther, though. I don't think
if no one wants to do this thing, then
so that's assuming nobody.
It doesn't mean anything.
Good. So this is where
even the majority.
Good. So this is where I think we might be getting, and this is what I wonder. Right? You could understand the Rash as simply saying it's just, it just feels wrong to be beating up 20,000 people, 50,000 people, 100,000 people to get them to say, yeah, we really want to bring it to God. But it might be more than that, right? It might be. Do you remember? We saw yesterday already that the Midrash says, what does it mean, reach nichalach? Why is the korban a reach nichalach to God? It's the sweet smell of
frankincense.
Of obedience. Of obedience. Right? That I commanded and you kept my will. It could be that it's not just that it seems weird to force everybody. But Noah, what's the problem here? It's clear that Kofar Shayoma Rotzani. Remember we said, based on the Rambam, that what? That you coerce the person.
He really wants to do it.
He really wants to do it. So for one person, okay. But if you have to get the whole tzibur,
I don't think they really want to do
it. So here again, it's subdivided. I can see this going two ways. And I don't have a firm answer for this, because it's...
I mean, yeah.
So one possibility is to say, again, I don't think this is a Rash. One possibility is to say, look, maybe every time I look at an individual, I can say, deep down, you really want to do the right thing. But when you have 1 million people, someone in there is a real jerk. Deep down, as deep as you go, he's still a jerk. Right? Like, as deep as you go, no matter how deep you go. Right? Like, ontologically, metaphysically, he's just a bad person. I don't know. Or, right, again, we have multiple possibilities here. Or, you say something different. Which is, maybe for an individual, we can suffice by saying, okay, I'm going to assume that that's what you want. I don't need your free will. I don't need like your pure your voluntary spirit. I don't need you to be into it. I just need you to say yes. And then I can say, yeah, probably deep down he really wanted it. But maybe a tzibur, a korban tzibur, which reflects the whole nation, it's just, you don't want to suffice with that low-level will. You want that which represents the people to be an expression, not just of like deep-seated Freudian assumptions about what you really mean. But this is very Freudian, right? You say you don't, by which we know you do. For a community, for the nation, we want it to be an expression of, like,
want.
Like actual, what a normal person looks at and says, that means he wants to do it. Right? Not, I have a gun to my head, I really want it, and deep down it reflects your will. Like, what we normally mean by want, which is, I would like to do this.
Yeah.
So here I think we have a bunch of possibilities, right? One is to say maybe tzibur really is just like the yachid, or to say no, it's different. Either because there's no one to coerce, because it's a corporate entity, or because just optics, right? Maybe what the Rash means is just optics, right? Forcing 50,000 people just looks bad. It just, right? Just wrong. One person is bad enough, but 50,000 people, forget it. Or you say that no, when it comes to a community, it's one thing to say that an individual, I have to hold his hand behind his back until he says yes. But the tzibur, we want the relationship of the nation with God to not be one of, coercion. We want it to be one of
love.
Yeah, right? Of will, at least, or willing obedience. Okay, I don't know if you call it love. Love, willing obedience, whatever. I don't know if I need that. Love, okay. willing obedience, okay?
It's a start.
It's a start. Whether it needs, love would be ideal, great. But willing obedience is maybe my tendency is to think that the Rash means one of those last two. Right? Either that it's optics, but my tendency is to, again, I have no proof for it, is to say the Rash means the last formulation. That when it comes to a tzibur, the way it reflects obedience and the relationship between God and the Jewish people, you want more than I hold the gun to your head. And so let's look at the Minchas Chinuch. Minchas Chinuch picks up on this Rash, and he says, "Umidei of riba zera'iti b'Torah Kohanim, Parshat Omer Perik Yud Halacha Hey." I was reading the Torah Kohanim, and hey, I found this line. V'heinifet Omer l'rtzonchem in kofen et tzibor ba'al karchol. V'hu chidush gadol. This Torah Kohanim is very novel. The bevadai kol korbanot tzibur bevadai im yesh beyicholet lachuf otam bevadai kofen kamo kol mitzvah say. He said, why not? If you could coerce the tzibur, however you would do that, so why shouldn't you? V'chol korbanot kofen achi yom harot tzanikim uvor kama pamim b'shas uviramba. Right? He says. Right, we know that by other korbanot you coerce until they say rotzani. He says v'nir dihine. He said maybe this is what drove the Torah Kohanim. Dihine got a kol korbanot dershin and yakrivato bal karcho uktiv lirtzono haketza kofen oto achi yom rotzani. By every regular korban, how did we get to this compromise of kofen achi yom rotzani? Two different words: yakriv, bring, which we interpret as even under coercion, and l'rtzono is in accordance with his will. And the compromise we come up with is coerce until he wants to. Aval kan k'tiv l'rtzonchem l'chud. Here it just says, in accordance with your will. Im kein nira d'bi'inen ratzon gamur. And this is, right, so the Rash, is the Minchas Chinuch, I think, is not taking the optics approach. Right, the Rash is saying it looks bad. He's taking a more fundamental one, which is,
Doesn't say.
correct. It's that normally you need ratzon, but it's qualified by yakriv. This is pure, unadulterated ratzon, and that's what you need. Al kol panim tmiyali al haram shaloi v'zeh, but he said the Rambam never mentions this. Ki u bright arucha av sheina b'vu b'shas yilam mi kamakam b'av v'sifrei haram harbe pamim maybe brighter d'sifa v'sifrei v'afil eichad ha'gemar didan cholik. And he says, I'm a little bit shocked because the Rambam doesn't quote this. And the Rambam normally quotes the Midrash Halacha as long as they don't go against the Gemara. So according to Minchas Chinuch, therefore, what do you have? The Minchas Chinuch thinks that the simple pshat in the Sifra is like the more radical read we suggested within the Rash, which is that by a tzibur you need free will. But he also thinks that even if it's not the Ravid I said I have a little bit of a suffix about, but he thinks the Rambam paskins, because the Rambam leaves it out, how does he assume the Rambam paskins? That you can coerce, just like any other korban, and that's why he doesn't qualify it. Then he quotes yet another position from the Zayit Ra'anan. Who's the Zayit Ra'anan?
Sounds Sephardi.
Very good. It's not. It's a perush on the Midrash Halacha by Rabbi Avraham Gombiner.
Never mind.
Better known as?
Even that's right.
No.
No, it's the other one.
It's the Mogen Avraham. As Ashkenazi as you get, the standard Ashkenazi perush on Shulchan Aruch, Avraham Gombiner of Poland. He also wrote a perush on the Midrash Halacha called Zayit Ra'anan. And he notes that Achar Kach Ra'iti B'Zayit Ra'anan Amad B'Zeh V'Katav Afte Al Torah Midrash Kofin Mikol Maka I should not have pen in my mouth Kevin the Matir Chadash Lo Yidrashlu Al Tmidinu Musafin Kofin Mikol Makom Kevin the Matir Chadash Lo Yidrashlu Kavor Be'erchen V'Hainu Kamo Chatat Hu L'Chapara Tzarchim So the Mogen Avraham, the Zayit Ra'anan, has the following. He says, I think that this halacha is not about Korbanot Tzibbur. It's only about the Omer. Why is it about the Omer?
Is it the Korbanot Tzibbur meant to be done primarily?
What?
Is
But he said he doesn't think it's true of a regular korban tzibur. He said a regular korban tzibur, the Zayir Ranan thinks you can coerce. It's only the omer you can't coerce. Why? He says as follows: because the omer. Remember, I said the korban omer. Before you bring the korban omer, what are you not allowed to do? Eat chadash. You can't eat new grain. So the Magen Avram, the Zayir Ranan, says maybe it's only the omer you can't coerce. Why? Because we don't need to coerce it. We know that as soon as the guy gets hungry,
he's going to want to do it.
He's going to want to. Minchas Chinuch says that's ridiculous because we passed in that even if you don't bring the korban, by the next day, at any rate, we'll see later in the Gemara, but at least by the next day, you can eat it even without the korban. So what are you talking about? For a few hours, you're going to bank on the fact that people want to eat early? Mapidom. That makes no sense. Makes no sense. But what you see is that the Zayir Ranan says that this is only korban omer. It's not halacha on all korbanot tzibur. Is that pshat in the Tosafot Tarkonim? No, b'chol not. Because what the Tarkonim said it about korbanot tzibur. Skip to 14 for a minute. And if you want proof, the Sifrei there, I typed out the Sifrei, says, not in the context of Korban Omer, says, L'rtzonchem, ein kofin et tzibur al karcho. So does it sound like it's a local halacha Omer if it appears multiple times in the Sifrei?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And if you look at Rash Mishans, and Agod of the Chelkat Yov points out as well, it says, L'rtzonchem, ein kofin et tzibur al karcho, Mifarshim lo k'divu yakriv kamo b'yachid. Exactly as Minchas Chinuch thought, because you can't coerce, right? You can't coerce. We'll come back to the rest of the Rash Mishans in a minute. Look at the Aruch HaShulchan Haasid. So the Aruch HaShulchan is written by who? Not the Shulchan Aruch, the Aruch HaShulchan.
Oh.
Ruchiel Michal Halevi Epstein.
Of course.
And it was finished in what century?
The 15th.
Other guesses? The 15th is before Shulchan Aruch. Bad guess.
Oh.
But Shulchan Aruch was in the 16th, 1500s.
So the 17th.
The 20th.
Wow.
The 20th. Just like which other book was... Which other major work on Shulchan Aruch? Thank you. Mishnah Berurah died in the 1930s.
I thought it was earlier than that.
Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan? No, the Aruch HaShulchan Aruch Chaim was written after the Mishnah Berurah. Because he quotes Mishnah Berurah and argues. Yes, Aruch HaShulchan and Mishnah Berurah are both late 19th and early 20th century, and not even that early, like 1930s. I'm not sure how early you're talking anymore, right? Remember, the Mishnah Berurah. Every time I need to remind you of this. The Mishnah Berurah has an obituary in the New York Times. We're not talking that long ago, people. You still have records of the Chavetz Chaim's obituary in the New York Times. Yes, we have it. I can send it to you later. Me'achos.
Was he like world known?
Yes.
For what?
Being a rabbi.
That's very impressive.
So I can find it.
Speaking of which, can I get my smicha and mezuzah, Rabbi?
Sure.
There's a few of us that want to do it.
Yeah, just like last year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a tradition now, like at least a few.
So the Aruch HaShulchan says. So the Aruch HaShulchan, in addition to his commentary on all of Shulchan Aruch, remember the Mishnah Berurah only wrote on which chelik of Shulchan Aruch? Aruch Chaim. The Aruch HaShulchan wrote not only on all four chelkei Shulchan Aruch, but he also wrote on Zroim, Kachim, and Tarot. In a separate book he wrote called the Aruch HaShulchan Ha'atid, the future Aruch HaShulchan, which is what you have in 12. He says, "Ve'eino muvan ha-mincha chovahi, v'kofen d'ashiyom rotzani, rotzim anachnu, kamo b'yachid v'korban chovan." Why can't you coerce until they say we want it? V'ulai d'memed kavanah darkanim kenu. Maybe that's what darkanim means. She'ein kofen al korcham ashiyom rotzani, v'chein mashma perish haraymed. And that's how he understands the right. It's not just the Misifta thinks this. The Aruch HaShulchan thinks that what the Ravid means is you are allowed to coerce as long as they say Rotzani v'kamashma l'nemar dein nishalim latzibur hakonim v'vim atzmam elam v'vakshim v'hem enim rotzim Korbanot Tashiyum Rotzani. If you look at the Hagot Maharid on the Torah Kohanim, he writes in Korbanot Tzibbur al Karchach Aval Gabdol Tzibbur Kofen al Tmidin Kedida Parashat Pinchas Mikom Makom Ein Omer Ein Kofen. He thinks that you can coerce on the Tamid, but you can't on the Omer, like the who held that? Zairanan. Now he quotes a Sifrei, which I can't find though. He claims that this is a different passage in Midrash Halacha, but I have not been able to find it. I don't think it exists. And what's his argument? Again, the Baichaders lo yidrashu al kach, that they won't be derelict in bringing the Omer. Why? Because it's a matir, right? Because it is going to be
so the one thing
matir. Okay, by the way, here, if you would like, I promise I'll show it to you. Here, New York Times, Saturday, September 16th, 1933.
Chafetz Chaim 105 is dead in Poland.
See, if you didn't believe me, here you go.
That's pretty whack.
Chafetz Chaim's obituary, New York Times, Saturday, 1916, September 16th.
Did they do any other ones for any rabbis?
Here, I will read it to you. I will read it to you.
Was he the only one?
Here, look.
Was he the only one? Like on an obituary?
He's not the only one, no. I will read it to you. Chafetz Chaim 105 is dead in Poland, venerated by Orthodox Jews as one of the 36 saints who saved the world, lived long in poverty, gave up store when popularity in village deprived other merchants of a living. Wilno, Poland, I assume that means Vilna, I'm not really sure, I don't know. September 15th, Jewish Telegraphic Agency. The famed Chafetz Chaim, venerated by Orthodox Jews throughout the world, is one of the 36 saints because of whose piety the Lord has not destroyed the world. Yeah, this is a New York Times article, just saying. Not with the New York Times you have nowadays. Died today in the village of Radin, near here, where he had spent most of the more than 100 years of his life. He had been ill only a short time. Chafetz Chaim, whose real name was Rabbi Yisrael Meir Cohen, has been a figure of almost legendary importance for almost half a century. Stories of his piety sprang up in the lore of Eastern Europe and among Orthodox Jews all over the world. The village where he had arrived for a few months, had served for a few months as a rabbi, was the source of pilgrimages of thousands of Orthodox Jews seeking the blessing of the Chafetz Chaim. And it keeps going on. It talks about the Chafetz Chaim. It's actually pretty long.
Who wrote it?
Frank F. Thorpe. That's what it says in the bottom of the article. Frank F. Thorpe.
I take it he's not a Jew.
Doesn't sound like it. So there you go.
Is there someone else who is known as Chafetz Chaim that lived earlier?
No.
Maybe in the
No, that's it.
19th century?
Nope, that's it.
Rabbi, do you know how to make the first Rambam now? I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Okay, but let's summarize what we have so far. Maybe we'll get one more position out today. Well, I'll have to finish the first, I don't know. Because I know this is a bit complicated, okay? So let's see. Okay, so can you coerce a Korban Tzibbur? Okay, so what possibilities do we have? What do we have?
Yes.
So we have the Ravid, Al-Pi, the Aruch HaShulchan, and the Maharid, which is, it's the exact normal rule, right? Kofin, Ad, Sheyomar, Rotzani, right? It's exact as same as everything else, right? Kofin, Sheyomar, Rotzani, exact same. Then you have never, right? Not even this. Okay? This is the Rashi Shams. What's the logic? So one possibility is this is the Rash Al-Pi, the Sifra. So the Rash himself says Ginai. Now we said Ginai can mean one of two things. Either optics, right? It just looks wrong. Or Tzibur needs Ratzon Gamur. Right? It's just the wrong thing to do. Who holds this? This is the Minchas Chinuch within the Torah's Kohanim. Right? Within the Torah's Kohanim. Right? This is how he explains the Torah's Kohanim. Right? This is also, according to Minchas Chinuch, the Rambam goes here also. Right? Minchas Chinuch claims that the Rambam is here too. Okay? Other possibilities are that Tzibur is viewed as a corporate entity, and therefore there's no one to force. Right? This is, who says this? Daniel. That's you. Right? That's what you said. Yeah, I also suggested it if you want to put my name next to it. Okay. What? Sure, got it. Okay, this is our suggestion as a share. Okay? The third possibility, which is the Maharid and the Ziring-Coercion, which is only the Omer because it's a Matir. Right? It's a matir, and therefore you can just wait for it. Just wait. The problem that Chaskanov said is really, for the few hours, that's compelling, but fine. It's only Omer, but he quotes, the Maharid quotes a Sifrei that I have no access to. I don't know what he's talking about. One more possibility so far. Let's look at the Tzofna Paneach. The Tzofna Paneach writes, Ayin Torat Kohanim, that's the rugged shaver, or Tzvi Rosen. He says, "Va'ayin b'Torat Kohanim, Parashat Emor, Gabei Tmidin v'Gamei Omer, de'ein kofen in Tzibur al Korbanot, va'Ta'am mishum de'ikar ha'kfiyah hi lahakdish et hakorban, u'memela achar kach mechayvin lahakrivo, ma'shein v'Korban Tzibur d'chol ze shelo karvu lochal shem Korban klal d'sakin bo shachtan l'kach lo shach bu kfiyah." He has a very formalist answer, which is the following. He thinks that normally, by a Korban Yachid, how are you kofeh? So, the person is makdish the Korban, right? He sanctifies, right? There's always two steps. First you sanctify the Korban, then you bring it. So the Tzofna Paneach says, look, by a normal Korban, you sanctify it, right? You're makdish it. And now what? Now it is defined as a korban that has to be brought. If you then say, you know what, I've already sanctified it, I don't want to bring it, we force you to bring it here. Why? Because it already exists as a korban. In potential, you sanctified it already. Right? You just don't want to bring it, so what do? Idiot, you already were sanctify it, bring it. Just bring it already. But he says a Korban Tzibur is not like that. A Korban Tzibur, he thinks that it only becomes defined as a Korban when it's brought. And therefore, his argument is very lumdish. You're only allowed to force someone to bring a Korban that is already defined as the Korban. But by a Korban Tzibur, it only becomes the Korban Tzibur when it's actually brought. And therefore, why can't you coerce them? Because you can't coerce them to create the definition. You can only coerce someone to bring that which already exists. But the Tzibur, what defines it as a Korban Tzibur is the Shechita. And if they don't want to bring it, so then there's nothing to coerce them about because it doesn't exist. So that is his argument for why it's Tzibur, right? The Kedusha starts with Shechita. So there's nothing to coerce. So that is the rugged shaver's argument for this. Okay, you know what? Let me do one more thing. So here's what you guys are a little bit tired. I see the fast is getting to you. So if I do the most complicated thing, which is the possibility that this is a machloket Tosefta Mishnah versus the Torah Kohanim, which might explain why the Rambam doesn't postulate it, right? Because remember, we still have to answer this question.
What in the Mishnah?
Right? One second. The Mishnah says that the Rambam doesn't postulate it. And he says, why not? He normally postulates like the Torah Kohanim if there is no contradiction. So the solution of some of the Achronim is there's a machlokes, not in the Gemara. It never appears in Shas, but there is a machlokes amongst the Tanaim in the Tosefta. Because remember, Mishnah, Tosefta, Torah Kohanim, same time period, more or less. So it's a machloket, and the Rambam doesn't postulate like it because he thinks there's a machloket. So on Thursday, we'll do this possibility that it's a machloket.
Is that a rule? If there's a machloket, he has to postulate the way? Or
No, he doesn't. But once it's machloket, you can at least explain. So he postulates like the other shita. That's not crazy. So on Thursday we'll do that machloket, and then you'll see that this may not just be a machloket in the Torah Kohanim, but it may be a machloket in Chazal. Okay? But one more thing I want to give you. Now the bottom, if you look at number 18, you know what? Before I look at 18, I am going to look at 19 for a minute. The Mishnah in Shkalim, if you just want to see where you might have this machlokas, and again, I don't want to get into it too much now about the corporate entity or not, so look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah quotes the following very complicated machlokas, okay? The halacha is as follows. A normal mincha, how much of it goes on the mincha?
All of it?
Komets. The rest of it is eaten by the Kohanim. What's the exception? Minchat Kohen. What happens to a Minchat Kohen? A mincha owned by a Kohen?
All of it?
It's all burnt. Kulo Kali. Okay? So, the Mishnah records the following machlokas. Amar Yehuda, Hayed ben Bukhri b'Yavne. Ben Bukhri said in Yavne that Kol Kohen sheshokel eino chote. That any Kohen who gives a machzir shekel does not sin. Why would you think they wouldn't sin? What's the happening that they would sin? Like, why do you have to say that a Kohen is allowed to give machzir shekel? Oh, it's good, it's Tainis Esther. Today's the minhag to give zeichel machzir shekel. Good, perfect, that we're doing this. Why would you think that it might be usher for a Kohen to give machzir shekel? Because by contributing, he makes every Kohen, every Karban, partially a Kohen's, and if it's a mincha, that means it'll have to be burned. So Kamash Malan, it's not true. They're allowed to give. Probably why? Because Tzibur is a corporate entity. So Amar lo Rabbi Yochanan Zakai lo ki ela kol kohen she'eno shokel chote. So Rabbi Yehuda quotes from Ben Bukhri that they're allowed to give, they don't have to. Rabbi Yochanan Zakai says no. If they don't give, they're sinning, meaning they have to give. Ela she'kohanim dorshem mikras elatzman, but the kohanim have this chap, which is kol minchat kohen kalil tiyeh. Every minchat kohen has to be burnt. Lo de'achel can't be eaten. Hoel va'omer shtei alechem v'lechem abanim shalanu ve'ech nechalem. And they said, you're right. There are three major mincha that are brought by the tzibur: the omer, shtei alechem, and the lechem abanim. And if the kohanim were to give money to the Beis Hamikdash, everything would be a karban tzibur, and you'd have to burn. Would be a minchat kohen, and you have to burn all of them. So what does Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai say? The kohanim claim that by giving money to the coffers of the Beit HaMikdash, it would mess up all the karbanot because it would make it partially kohanim. But the halacha is they have to give. So one way of reading the machlokes is that the kohanim are saying, what is a tzibur? A conglomerate of the people in it, and therefore, if there are a bunch of kohanim who are participating, then every karban tzibur is partially a karban kohen, a minchat kohen. And what's Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai saying? No, it's a karban tzibur. The tzibur transcends its parts. But like I said, that's a share for another time, but just to see where this might come up. The last thing I'll see for today, and then we'll see this machlokas tonight, and by Thursday I want to finish, is the following. I emailed one of my rebbeim from when I was in Shiva, who was my first rebbe who taught me Kachem. When I first started learning Kachem, I was in Shana Bet. When we did Menacha, Zman Kayetz, not this part of Menacha, the first two part of Menacha, Rav Dani Wolf. And I emailed him about this sugya, so he emailed me back, and in 18 I gave you part of his email to me.
He responded in Hebrew.
Yes, even though he's American, but he did email me in Hebrew. So I'll just read it to you. He says, "Avol b'tzibur shalem she'ena rotzeh lekayim mitzvah aseh b'zel omrin b'tzibur shalem onis atzmo b'dato hara." Right? He took the position that, which we mentioned before, whatever, 2b, let's call this, which is, by an individual you can say, yeah, he really wants to do it, but his Yetzer Hara is stopping him. By a tzibur, you can't do that. He says...
Too many Yetzer Haras.
What? Or something like that. And if you look... So, hold off on the first paragraph here, where he's going to get into Machloket Tanaim, which is how I knew there was Machloket Tanaim, because he told me. But look at the last line. He says, Optzia acheret. Here's another option. Shechelek midin kfiyah nuatza b'din tzibur. Klomar tzibur musmach l'chvot hayachid. And this is his another possibility, which is, why can't you force them? Because the nature of kfiyah is that the bezdin, who represents the community, is allowed to coerce an individual. That's how coercion works, right? As the famous line goes, right? I think it was Robert Cover who said this, right? That the law is what, right, permits violence or allows violence, whatever. So some line like that, right? That by making something the law, it makes it not violence, it makes it implementation of the law. That's what law does. Right. That type of power, by definition, is a community coerces an individual who's out of line. But what if the community is out of line? Where's that power going to come from? Right? The nature of governmental coercion is this. He says, "Kolmar tzibur musmach lechor yachid. Zechut v'koach natun letzibur lechor yachidim. Aval lo sabir sheyachid echvat tzibur afilu lasot divrei Torateinu HaKadoshah." He said, no individual has the right to force the tzibur, even if you do the right thing, but still coercion. Maybe you imagine that coercion is, right, the rabbin over the yachid. But it makes no sense that a person would be able to coerce the tzibur. That's not how coercion works. Right? It's a tool in the toolkit of the community. So those are 5.5 possibilities to understand this. We've seen the minority view that it's only Omer, right? This is the Zayir Hanan, right? And the Maharid. What we'll do on Thursday is the possibility that, in fact, this is simply a machloket tanoim between the Midrash Halacha and the Tosefta that we're going to look at in Shkolim. So just to set you up, on Thursday what I want you to do is read the Tosefta in 16. Okay? The Tosefta is, part of the Tosefta is quoted in the Gemara, which I gave you in 22. And we're going to try to get through all the sources between 16 and 24. If we have time, we'll do 25, 26, and 27. If not, we'll hold off on that because
I can definitely do 27.
So we're going to hold off on that. That is going to be part of... if we have time, we'll get through it. If not, we'll come back to it. But I definitely, by Thursday, I want to make sure, when you're not fasting, to do this machloket tanem. Like I said, this is not easy sugya, but I've had fun doing it anyways. Okay. One of the nice things about KosherTube is people don't really write about it so much. You can really be very imaginative, right? You become a volunteer member very quickly.